Alright, it's been about a year since the last video I did, where I went through 17 books, if I remember correctly. And we're back again, baby. You can see I'm in my university accommodation here. You can see that nice little painting of a tree I did. It's very nice. And I'm going to be back here just talking about, of this past year, the things that have gone in my life, particularly through the books I've read, and we're going to go through and see what they're all about. Seems like there are multiple factors or intensities of things in the world that influence my flows and circulations in the world, and those would be as well as knowledge like that I gain through experience and through books and through discipline. There is also many different factors such as and these all influence each other, all interconnect obviously, and so depending on the place where I am, depending on the people I'm around, depending on the types of desires I develop, depending on the my spiritual kind of sense of myself. By all I mean by spiritual is my concept of how I relate to the world and my view of myself. There is obviously a financial element to all of this, how much money I can gain and subtract, and how that limits my life. And then there's also my physical body, how I physically developed my capacities in that direction as well. And then there's maybe some other characteristics, such as I got a brand new phone. Now that will have some very small impact on how I live my life, or it might actually have quite a large one actually, now I think about it. I can't exactly think of any particular thing, but all these things add up and they all interconnect and they all add to each other. Yeah. This vlog thing, or this update, is also a practice in me looking at how I've interpreted my own life. So we will be able to do a meta kind of analysis of these each year if I keep it up for each year. So yeah, I'll be able to potentially do that in the future. And maybe we'll touch on those spheres that I just talked about, those spheres of influence and circulation in the world of myself and things interconnected. But we're primarily going to stick with talking about the books and then the things surrounding the books from that, and maybe the things that influence then my reading into the books, as we did last time as well. Alright, so last year I read these books in the end. And quite a few of them, as you saw, were on the previous video that I did in this series, and those were all the books that I read in 2021 in the end. Not that many, but a decent amount. It was enough, you know. And now I'm going to go through some of those books that you've just seen there, and then I'll then tell you about the books I'm reading this year, and the ones that I've started and the ones that I've read through a little bit more. Which might give us a prediction as to how my future will be in a year's time. If you're looking back this in 10 years' time, whatever, it might be quite interesting to see how my life's going. But yeah, let's go. Alright, so as I'm at university and I've already read the books there, I haven't bothered to bring most of them back here. So I'm just going to have to, I can't hold up many physical books of these. Yeah, so you'll just have like a nice little picture there. Wow, look at that. Wow, yeah. And that is the first book that the oldest book I've read so far, which is Piketty, Pocket Piketty. I read this because I didn't want to read Capital in the 21st Century, and I found it really boring. Very, very boring. Really clearly read, though easy to understand, but very boring. I actually lost it at a party and couldn't read it for about a month. but I got it back, and I've given it to one of my friends now for them to read. Yeah, it was quite amazing to, I don't know, hear the sheer amount of data and dedication that Piketty put towards this book from this person, and it also confirmed, I believe, similar trends to what Marx originally thought in the past, with how the economy would flow. Obviously, they both use different mechanisms, but the overall message and the overall trends are there. That eventually, capital gets consolidated over time, and it only takes something like a world war to at least bring it down temporarily, or 2 world wars. So, fun times, it's okay, if capital gets out of balance, we just gotta invent a couple of more wars. It's cool. It's all good. Great economic system. The next book that I read after this, which the Piketty one I might have done during the summer of, after I read those books, basically after I filmed that thing, I was probably starting to read Piketty then, and I read this book then after that, maybe towards just before August, so July-ish, that kind of thing, well, maybe even a little bit, yeah, kind of July, August-y, that type of vibe. Yes, vibe, not a date, not a calendar, but vibe. This was Malatesta's Anarchy, which I picked up from a bookstore in Brighton. That's called the Cowley Club, I believe. Yeah. If not, you can already see the text on screen correcting me. And if not, then there's no text. I'm just perfect, really. This one, when I was working at McDonald's, I would also read during my lunch breaks or dinner breaks, and I really liked it. I also read it when I went to Nottingham with my friends, and yeah, I quite liked. If you know my Instagram, which is there, then you will know that. You can look back on 2021 and look at the books that I read then and see my comments, because I can't really remember what they were. But I did like his concept of solidarity as well, especially, which is essentially a synergy of selflessness but also selfishness. It's a point that, hang on, these things aren't dichotomized. It seems like in society today, we like to lean on one or the other, which seems very misguided. And we'll see why as well later on, that these aren't taken dialectically, if that is the right term. And really, they should be, because an action can be selfless, but also be selfish. Or not necessarily selfish, but self-full. It can fill you up, and it can fill others up. We don't have to have these things that are either you completely sacrifice yourself, or you completely, go in for yourself. There is a middle ground, and in fact they can influence each other and feed into each other, which I believe is what dialectical things do. They reciprocate and influence and change each other, like the yin and yang, and all that stuff in it. At this time, I finished Anarchy, and then I started reading for Libertarian Communism by Daniel Guérin, who is a historian, French historian. He did a lot of work on particularly the French, the Paris Commune, and I really like this. It really brought about another sense of, hang on, socialism can kind of actually happen, or communism, or whatever. these things can actually occur, and spontaneously, and, you know, from individuals, rather than needing some kind of master dictator that everyone thinks that people want, well, particularly people who have never read any communist literature, that what they think. Yeah, it gave me a lot of hope. It made me reconsider the position a lot of these people in, especially as most of these people who are working in the Paris Commune, they're ordinary people. They're not exactly supermen with intelligent understandings about the logistics and, you know, organisation of a whole society. But then everyone plays a small role, and then everyone, like, society works like a hive mind. Obviously, that's not exactly the best, and a multiplicity hive mind, where each person, you know, excels in their own area, and as such the society cohesively cooperates and is able to, you know, develop its capacities further. Yeah, it really, I really like this book. I really liked it. The thing is, though, I never got around to finishing it. As with Deleuze's book on Nietzsche and Bertil Ohlmann's book, The Dance of the Dialectic. And that's because I basically I parted ways with my significant other around this time, and I just gave up on Marxism. I gave up on any political things because it just made me miserable, and now I didn't have this person here to hear me whine all the time about how shit the world was. I kind of had to face myself. I kind of had to go, you know, like, I had to rethink about who I was, what I wanted from life, if this was really helping me out. I'm still a Marxist, but I've also realised I need to develop myself. I need to do things for myself. I need to empower myself. I need to push myself forward and overcome my own problems, rather than just forgetting about them and just focusing on politics or anything like that. Because, you know, politics isn't, like, obviously, even in a post-capitalist communist society, you're still going to have your own problems internally. So thinking that we could escape into politics to address these things is also mistaken. And most people know this anyway. And so, going from left-wing politics and really trying to get into this type of stuff, I just abandoned all that, and I started reading a book by a guy called Coach Corey Wayne, who's this dude. He's got a decent amount of followers, maybe, I think, almost... Give me 1 second. Alright, can't find it. Internet's down, as usual, for my university. I was going to whisper this, but not going to lie, they already know it. The Wi-Fi's shit here. It's not the best. Not a good service, I have to say. But anyway, yeah, I started following Coach Corey Wayne's stuff. I originally started looking at Coach Corey's stuff when I was about 15, 14, because I was a very shy, timid person who was just the typical nice guy. And so I watched quite a few of his videos. I ended up using a lot of what he said to get my girlfriend at the time, who's now my ex. And now with my ex out of the way, I then decided to go back to his work to try and work it out, look at where I went wrong. Initially also to try and get her back. Yeah, but that ain't gonna happen anytime soon. And so now he's taken on a new life. I've gone far more into self-help now, and a lot of those areas of books, quite a lot of like Stoic stuff, and then that leads us. I did read 3% Man. I've got through one reading. I'm reading through it a second time on an audiobook at the moment. I'm going to try and get through it, 10 to 15 times maybe even push it to like 20 or something. We'll see how it goes. But I'm very much more and more each day by day as I learn new experiences. I'm more and more wanting to push myself out of my shell, to break open pieces of myself until I'm no longer the shell and I'm a new person. I've burst out my cocoon and I'm me, but just without the limits of fear. As we'll go on to later, I would be living my life, according to Jason Wilson, by the goodness of my heart and not the fears that I have. You have this book though, and that is my first piece of non-fiction in like forever, basically. This was Murakami's Norwegian Wood. Now I got this one because one of my friends, he had quite a few of Murakami's stuff. I'd heard about Kafka on the Shore, and we were just chilling in like Waterstones, and saw this, and I was like, maybe that's worth going. What do you think that? And he was like, yeah, that's pretty good. It's a pretty good idea. And I was like, why is your voice so high? And he was like, I don't know, why is your voice so high? And then we realised that we'd both been taking helium. So, yeah, it was kind of weird forgetting that we did that, but we did. Yeah, so this book I really liked. Very, very relatable. In fact, I felt like the guy who is best friends, the guy who was the best friend of what's his face, Watanabe. I felt like him, which maybe gives you ooh, just that sunlight. Wow, that gives you a little hint at my relationship status in a sense. Maybe that doesn't. I don't know, but yeah, I liked it. I liked how like cold he is, or how detached he is. I liked how he didn't really give a shit and just kind of went out and did whatever he wanted. I kind of like it. I quite respect it. When I read it, I liked how it made me just sort of engage less emotionally with the world. And I don't know, some people might see that as a bad thing, but I kind of didn't mind that. I liked that. I needed it at the time. And I frequently read this while I was doing my essays, in between them, also trying to not do my essays. And yeah, I really, really liked it. Yeah. Yeah. Now we're coming around to November, which is where my birthday is. And for my birthday, I got Jonas Chakers, How to Philosophise with a Hammer and Sickle, which I found really, really cool. I really, really liked. I bought the audiobook as well to go with this, and so I was able to hear his lovely, lovely voice while I read through, and I really liked hearing about things. Gotta admit, I can't remember much. Well, it is what it is, but I did like it. I enjoyed it. I liked seeing the similarities between the Nietzsche's like Overman and the Master and Slave Morality, and Marx's dialectical capitalism, socialism, communism synthesis type thing. I really liked the similarities. And also how very Nietzschean Marx is himself, how, he was essentially saying very similar things to Nietzsche. and it was essentially a lot of things that I had slowly already developed. God, this sun is really do you like my hair? It's nice, isn't it? Yeah. What the fuck am I doing? Yeah, it was essentially like a summary of everything I'd already kind of knew, but it just consolidated, reinforced it, and just made me go, yes, it's fucking amazing, yeah, of course. Yeah, I read that, also when I was in Bristol for a little while as well, and it was really cool. Really good book. I'm going to probably read it at some point again. I brought it because I wanted to show one of my lecturers as well, and she seemed really excited about reading it. So yeah, it's good. I definitely recommend reading it. Definitely, especially if you're like sort of new to socialism. It'll make you far more based, and not, I don't know, caught up in all stupid drama of left tube politics, YouTube or whatever. Now we're coming into the end of the year, and about this time I went home for the holidays, and in that year previously, in my second year here at university, we looked at the Stoics, the Epicureans, and the Skeptics, and we looked particularly at Epictetus or Epictetus. And I bought his book because it was the shortest book on the reading, and I did a book review of it because it's only 26 pages. And at the time, I kind of liked it. I liked the ideas of it, but I thought it had something missing. I thought I didn't talk enough about the influence that the outside world has upon us, and so I criticised him for that. But then I don't know what actually did it. Maybe there was some YouTube video I watched on Epictetus or Epictetus. Could have been. Who knows? But I just decided to pick it up again, and so yeah, I read the Enchiridion again, and this time I didn't it's 22 pages, so there's only 22 pages in the first book, but this time I decided to read through the other half of it because I hadn't read that, and there was quite a few things in here which really got my mind whirring. It's precisely when you can kind of disagree with an author that I tend to engage more. Particularly the same with music as well. A lot of the music that I disliked when I first heard it, and it's because I gave it the time to think it over, see where it's coming from, and slowly ease myself into it, that I've probably appreciated it far more. One of the biggest things I've taken from this is kind of essentially a belief in these old people. I almost feel like I can trust what they have to say simply just because they're that old and that they've been repeated that enough times in the world that they must have something right going on if they're going to keep on repeated like this. Now obviously that type of way of looking at things has its own problems, but what I've learned from this has been incredibly valuable. I've learned particularly about how he essentially puts it in terms where I felt like I was gaining something. I thought Stoicism was all about removing yourself from things. It was about slowly depleting everything you have. And that didn't really seem that powerful to me. It seemed a bit weak, it seemed a bit sheepish, it seemed a bit just retreatful and ascetic, if that's the right term. But no, very much not so. In Epictetus, I found a dichotomy between those things that we can control and those things that we can't. Those things maybe that are less in our control and those things that are a little bit more in our control. And our virtues, how we cultivate our own patience, how we cultivate our views on ourselves, how we cultivate our attitudes towards others, how we cultivate our drives and missions in life. These are all internal things that are certainly influenced by the external, but they're far more in our control than whether the bus is going to come in 10 to 15 minutes or not. And, you know, he's essentially asking us to abandon the external and work on the internal. And previously I hadn't really seen the cultivating the internal, and so that's why I'd never been motivated by it. But now I can understand. It's like, you know, if you're in control of this operation, or in control of that operation, or you're less in control of that one, and if you're in control of the one that, like, the one that you're in control of more is the thing you're going to be taking around everywhere you go, i.e. yourself, your body, your mind, your attitude. You can't escape that, and it's going to be probably quite worthwhile to invest in that area compared to the outside, the external things which are temporary and are limited to areas. It seems a lot better to just work on that bit that is always going to be with you no matter where you go, which is yourself. So, very much appreciate Epictetus. Thank you. You've taught me about what it means to cultivate virtues, and for that, thank you. And so, I read a few more things in that year, but that was it really. And for Christmas, I then got the Tao Te Ching, How to Win Friends and Influence People, and Battlecry by Jason Wilson. And these are the books I've been reading this year, and I've been reading at the moment, right this second. I've read through the Tao Te Ching once, and I listened to the audiobook while I did that. And I'm on like chapter 2 of How to Win Friends and Influence People, and I've been reading listening to the ebook of this on YouTube as well, because it helps me get through it quicker. Just the same way with the Jonas Checker book. The same with this one. I bought this one in Waterstones not long ago, because I'd heard about whatever the hell his name is, because Coach Corey speaks of him. And that's the same with Carnegie, and the same with Laos too. All these people were mentioned in Corey's books, well, Corey's 3% Man, and as a result, it led me to them. I'm also, right now, and this might be my thing for next year, I haven't even really started it, I've read the introduction to Kierkegaard, A Guide for the Perplexed, because I'm going to have to do a book assignment on this. It's going to be due in like 2 weeks or like a week and a half. I've got to read through the whole fucking thing and then write up an essay, a book review of it. So we'll see how good this is. If you don't see me ever talk about it again, you know it was probably shit. But I don't think it will be. It's apparently Kierkegaard attacked Hegel quite a lot. And so I'm interested to see that, because I'm interested in learning about Hegel. Throughout all of this, I've also been writing. I've been keeping a diary, and this is just one of them. Where am I? I'm there, and I went through a whole one of these. This is another one. I did this one in the space of basically a month. I also went through another one of those. I went through like 8 different books, maybe even more. in the space of since like August, just because I've had so much to think about, and I've really needed to express myself, and writing has been a huge benefit for myself for that. But yeah, so the books I read this year, the only two that I've properly read, I read Seneca's On the Shortness of Life. I really appreciated that. I liked how I went and bought that after I was really hungover one night, and I read that in like a cafe, or sitting outside having some salmon and omelette at a cafe in my city, and it was tipping it down and it was freezing and I was still hungover, and it was great. I really liked how Seneca spoke about, particularly about having time for yourself, and that I was like, shit, yeah, I don't really do that often. Like, how little time do I do that? I'm always rushing between things, trying to please other people, trying to do other things. And it was also quite fun to look at how we kind of shits on different like people in society, and even how, even if you're successful by society's standards, you're still going to be plagued with all these same problems that are external, or no, that are internal ones. You're still not going to have time for yourself. You're still going to, I don't know, care about maybe what other people think. You're still going to worry about death and illness and all these sort of things. And it was fun to see that, because it was a good reminder again of the Stoic points of, well, these things outside of you that you can't control them. Better to turn to the internal and work on that. Obviously, this attitude can very easily be used by the ruling class as an excuse to not do anything about changing the world and getting us all just to focus on ourselves. But at the same time, if we're going to do anything with our lives, we've got to fine-tune ourselves. We've got to make ourselves into effective weapons. We can't just wallow around hoping that with enough whining someone will do something about it. We've got to be the people that do it. So it was very much a good book to read, as are all these self-help books, even if some of them are a bit silly in some places. This year, though, I've had a friend who's a Muslim, and I've been going to the mosque with him quite frequently, and I've been the two full books that I've read this year have been Battlecry and the Tao Te Ching. Both of them I very much would like to return to after some time, and I'd like to say that I found some parallels between them. The big thing is that Jason Wilson's a Christian man. There he is. Lovely, kind dude. And this book particularly goes over a lot of his experiences and how he's applied what he's thought and in his own life. And it was really inspiring. It made me cry very, very much, like a lot. And one of the main things that I took from it was a huge thing. I took that peace isn't an absence of problems. It isn't an escape. It's the effective dealing with problems that brings about peace. And I'd been very mistaken, thinking that peace, again, was this thing that was separate to problems. That these things were opposed, but actually no. Peace comes about through effectively dealing with problems. You feel peaceful when you can relax and you've been able to conquer something. Again, it's maybe a similar kind of dialectical fashion, if this is the right way of terming it. Hope so. But another thing that I took, not from Jason, well, potentially from Jason's book, was but I particularly got from just a 5-minute video, or like just a 2-minute video or something on YouTube, was the relationship between desire and discipline. Before, and I think our society also does this, and it's probably why I have the perception I've had of it. Often I've thought that discipline is about being cold and rational and sorry, a bit embarrassing. It's about being cold and rational and hard and removing all your desires and following some rational goal. And I've then seen desires, and I think society also sees this, is on the flip side, it's the people who go, who cares about, all these rules, all these disciplines, it just makes you miserable, you just become some Puritan who just removes themselves from life and rejects everything and doesn't do anything. And they go the opposite way. And they go, no, we need to be hedonistic and lavishing in everything in the world and just put all our desires out there. And this is when you see all the horny music videos out there. This is all, it belongs to this. And the problem with both the approaches is that they both start to define themselves according to the other. If you see all this degeneracy in the world, then you focus more and more on becoming a miserable sod who just doesn't follow anything and just hates the world. And if you see all these disciplined, hard people, you might go the complete opposite way and just react to that as well. And neither one forms themselves or reconciles the other. They just double down in their own area and just, as a result, become more and more exclusive. They more and more focus in on themselves again and repeat themselves rather than having an engaging free flow of everything in difference. And that's been a very big thing I've learned. Discipline and desire aren't opposed. Discipline is choosing a higher desire than another desire. In a sense, we discipline ourselves when we eat a hamburger over a healthy salad or whatever. It's all about our choices and our desires, and there are certain desires that society and ourselves tell ourselves that are higher than others, and discipline is simply choosing the higher over the lower. And we already know what the higher and lower are because they're within us. Another thing I've also learned is that perhaps these two can be reconciled maybe further, but I think there is also a big difference between what society tells us is the right thing to do. This is what our head tells us, and what we tell ourselves we want to do, which is here in our heart, or in our gut, or in our belly. Jason Wilson's book, Battlecry, very much showed me this, about really truly living from your heart and not from your fears. And also the Tao Te Ching did this. One of the biggest things I've learned from the Tao Te Ching is about trust. It's about being able to believe in yourself, and when you believe in yourself, you follow in the Tao, and you can flow perfectly with the rest of the world. You can let the Tao flow through you, and you act in the Tao. And it very much linked up with then what I was hearing from the Stoics, with the idea about the world being governed by rationality, by God being nature, because that just lines up with the Tao, which also in my mind lined up with Yah in Jason Wilson's book. And hanging out with my Muslim friend and going to the mosque and seeing new perspectives in that side, it's really opened me up. I developed a much more interesting view of God I believe God is a source of legitimacy in the world, and it's a source of being able to, you can have faith when you have God. And this doesn't mean it has to be the God of the Abrahamic faiths. It could be a pantheistic God. The concept of God itself legitimizes everything from it. And in that sense, we can't do without God. We just invent new God. We just invent a new God for ourselves in a society that is secular. Or we kill ourselves, essentially. This has also taken me in another direction. When I can see these overlaps in Christianity and Islam and Taoism and Stoicism, it's really made me appreciate history more. I can now see history not as a bunch of people who got things wrong, but just different societies, different concepts of living. And it makes me more interested to learn about these, to see how these reproduce themselves and why they reproduce themselves. And it makes me far more engaged in history. I'd like to compare and see what we can bring forward from the past and what we can bring forward from other cultures as well. And I'm really, really happy I've been able to develop that. Very happy. One of the things I also learnt from the Tao Te Ching was further developments on morality. Stephen Mitchell, in the opening, says that the teaching of the Tao Te Ching is moral in the deepest sense. Unencumbered by any concept of sin, the master doesn't see evil as a force to resist, but simply as an opaqueness, a state of self-absorption which is in disharmony with the universal process. This can be the rational God, nature for the Stoics. This can be potentially Yah, maybe, for Jason Wilson. So that, as with a dirty window, the light can't shine through. This freedom from moral categories allows him his great compassion for the wicked and the selfish. In other areas, he says, where is it? In chapter 60 of the Tao Te Ching, Lao Tzu says, "Give evil nothing to oppose, and it will disappear by itself." It's very much unconflicting, and when there is conflict, it's competition in a play. It's being able to see over the problem and not see it as a problem. It aligns very much with the quote of what you resist persists and what you look at disappears. It's the idea that you can deal with these things. And in fact, that's actually a further thing I've learned recently from the art of communication, where Watsumaji tells us to look at our negative thoughts as little children. It's about putting these things forward and feeling like we're already above them and already introducing ourselves as if we can overcome them. And he asks us to acknowledge our fears, acknowledge our angers, and nurture them like little kids. Like, if one's in a temper, you go and nurture it. You look after yourself. The same way, it's all about self-caring and self-loving, self-allowing, letting yourself go through these emotions, and then you come out the other end and trusting in it, which is completely what the Tao Te Ching is about. It's completely about trusting in the process, the self. Yeah. And so, yeah, that's pretty much it. That's everything I've been learning over the past year. Though particularly in the past 6 months, 5 months, probably 5 months. Yeah, I guess 6 months actually. Yeah. And now I can live. Pardon me. But yeah, so that's everything that's going on in my life. Guess you will see this in a year's time, and you will see where I've gone, who I am. If I had to give you any ideas, I'd like to think that I will be a better, more confident me. I'll live less from fear. I maybe even be able to completely remove fear from myself. In the sense, not that I will ever unencounter it, but rather that I will be able to effectively deal with it as soon as it arises, and I'll be able to master myself. More and more from my life experiences, I want to, as I've said earlier, I want to open myself up, I want to crack open myself, I want to fail and get better and learn and grow and just become a completely new me, one that is completely unchained by any of these lower desires, any of these lower powers within me. I want to live from some of the highest desires, from the highest powers of love and of abundance and of a creativity and a trust. I want to. And being able to engage in exercises where I say, I want this. Wouldn't it be nice if, and then writing whatever comes after that in my head. And being able to read these books and be able to have time for myself, and it's amazing. It's really good. Yeah. Is it inshallah? No, which is if God wills it. That's a term that I've liked to use frequently, and it's a good one. Life happens for you, not to you. I believe this pragmatically now. It isn't just a thing where I was like, yeah, that's a nice idea. Why not believe it? It helps you out. Beyond this, though, there have been many other factors in my life. I've been improving my health. I've been taking care of myself a lot better. I see the importance of exercise, and I really like the fact that you can engage in exercises. I've been watching particularly a lot and exercising a lot of the ones from Next Workout, if that's right. Yeah, that one by Ivan, or Igor, or something. He's great, and I love the fact that exercise is essentially like an engagement in yourself. It's a challenge against yourself. It's how far can I push myself, and then you see the benefits on you right there. It's just the same with the mentally developing yourself and cultivating your virtues mentally. For the Stoics, it's the same in exercise, and I really like that. I really, really like that. I'm also living in accommodation which allows me to get into the town centre in about 20 minutes, and though I am incredibly broke, so I can't really do anything now, I've been able to get into the city, and I've been able to go, wow, see, because this is quite a university-based town, city. There's a lot of pretty girls, and a lot of pretty clever girls as well, and it's nice to see that. It's nice to go, holy shit, like, that girl that I messed up with in this situation, she was there, she was just introduced to me, and there's always going to be another girl. That's kind of the attitude I'm taking at the moment. And it's cool. I can just go out, and more I'm trying to just talk to random people and push myself that way. I tried to start talking to people at bus stops and on the buses, which is cool. Yeah, financially I'm a bit stifled at the moment, but it's good because it's an engagement in learning how to be economical and save money, which I need. I'm looking at getting a job as I quit McDonald's because It's McDonald's. And what else is there? My flatmates are phenomenal. I've learned something, at least one thing, probably 3 things from each of them, and I can look at them and I can really respect them, and I feel inspired by them. I've been so fucking lucky with them. They're all great people. It's really, really great. I've been blessed. So thank you so much, God. Thank you. Thank you very much. You've earned a subscriber. I kind of realise how unhealthy being at home is, how depressing it is. And it's quite sad, actually. It's a real shame. That's something I'm going to have to overcome this year. I'm going to have to work out how I can deal with that, how I can help people, but also not hinder them, not get in their way. And I'll have to reconcile that. There's plenty of things I've got to reconcile. I want to improve my capacity my understanding of people's body language. I want to improve my confidence and push myself. I want to follow my heart more and more and more, and let fear hinder me less and less. I want to, through that, develop my discipline, because discipline is simply choosing the higher desires over the lower ones. And I don't know what else. There's probably a 5th thing. There's always something else, and that's cool. But yeah, that'll be it. This is probably taking fucking ever. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in whenever I next see you. See ya.